America is fighting two viruses. We are fighting the novel coronavirus, but we are also fighting an age-old virus of racism.
I would never expect anything like this to happen in Raleigh.
We don't have to burn our city down. We work here.
We also need the injustice to be addressed, but we also need love to prevail.
And we start with breaking news at 4 o'clock. The unrest continues across the Triangle and around the country after the death of George Floyd. For the past few hours, protesters blocked the Durham freeway. But now traffic has reopened. Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Gerald Owens.
And I'm Deborah Morgan. Catherine joins us in a moment. Protests like the one we saw in Durham today have been happening across North Carolina for 3 straight days. Some started as peaceful, yet turned violent, leading to curfews for several communities, including in the city of Raleigh. A live report on that in just a few minutes. First, to this breaking news we've been showing you live during the past hour. WRAL's Sarah Kruger is live in Durham to tell us about the protest that blocked a major highway for a time. Sarah?
Deborah, a few dozen protesters met here in this parking lot around 1 o'clock this afternoon. And from here, they marched through East Durham and over to 147. In doing so, they had one mission: to get a meeting with Police Chief Davis and Sheriff Burkhead. And they have accomplished that mission. And so the protest has now dispersed. Let's show you some video of that protest. They marched again from here in East Durham to 147, where they blocked all lanes of traffic on 147 near Alston Avenue for roughly 30 minutes. They did not move from 147 until Chief Davis and Sheriff Burkhead agreed to an in-person meeting to discuss over policing and other community issues. While protesters were on 147, an officer on the scene handed a phone over to one of the organizers. He said Chief Davis was on the line and they had a conversation. So according to that organizer, they worked it all out, and there will be a meeting on Friday with that organizer and some other community leaders and Sheriff Clarence Burkhead, as well as Police Chief Davis. Now, I want to mention that from what I saw here this afternoon over several hours, there were no arrests. It remained incredibly peaceful, no destruction of property. The organizer here really stressed that he did not want anything to turn violent. He said he did not want to burn down buildings. He wanted to burn down racism. Deborah.
Sarah, did the protesters meet with any of the other city officials?
So when we got back here to this parking lot, Mayor Steve Schewel was here, and he was talking with an organizer. So that I certainly did see happen. As far as any other city or county leaders that they may meet with, I have not heard anything on that. But again, the big ask today was really that meeting with the police chief and the sheriff, and I'm told that will be happening on Friday.
Sarah Kruger live in Durham. Thanks, Sarah.
Now at 4, the city of Raleigh is taking action after angry, frustrated protesters became violent over the weekend. WRAL was on the air for hours documenting these moments. Now, the events protest the death of George Floyd. They began peacefully, but some people took it too far by destroying businesses. Now, after 2 straight nights of these protests, a citywide curfew goes into effect at 8 p.m. WRAL's Cullen Browder is live in downtown Raleigh to tell us what this all means. Cullen?
Well, Gerald, it means everyone, with very few exceptions here in Raleigh, is expected to be off the streets from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. Consider all those businesses already impacted by the COVID-19 restrictions. They will have to shut down during that time. All these businesses, with all this damage behind all this plywood, is the reason. On 2 nights, passionate, peaceful protests against police brutality turned brutal themselves with vandalism and looting.
We need to make sure that we are not destroying the very things we're trying to stand up for.
Corey Branch, Raleigh's mayor pro tem and only African-American councilman, fully backs the protest message, not the violence.
I pray we do not have to do this night after night after night, but we have to take a pause.
That pause will be a Raleigh curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. Everyone is expected to stay home and off the roads, with the exception of public safety, medical, active military, utilities workers, and journalists. Businesses, including grocery stores and restaurants, must close. Those who violate the order face a Class 2 misdemeanor, which carries a maximum 60 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. After looting both Saturday and Sunday nights ransacked his business, Alan Horwitz of Reliable Jewelry and Loan argues the curfew comes too late.
2 nights in a row is 2 nights too many, and I think something should have been done earlier, more enforcements, the National Guard.
So not everyone is on board with this curfew. Some council members were hesitant, and the ACLU put out this statement this afternoon, quote, combined with the aggressive show of military force and the troubling accounts of excessive force by police, curfews repeat the violence and brutality at the root of protests. Mayor Marianne Baldwin had no further comment today. We also reached out to Raleigh Police for clarity. So far, we have not heard back. Gerald.
All right, Cullen Browder live in Raleigh. Thank you, Cullen.
Now we have some breaking news as dozens of protesters are marching through downtown Raleigh once again. This time they're at the Raleigh Convention Center. That's where we find WRAL's Joe Fisher. Joe, you followed the protest last night. Tell us about what's happening there now.
Deborah and Gerald, we just got downtown in the past 15 minutes and found this group of about 50 protesters marching down Salisbury Street. Right now, they have stopped down in front of the Raleigh Convention Center, many of them with signs that we are reading here saying, "We the people have a new American dream." They were chanting Black Lives Matter as they passed in front of the Justice Center, where several deputies were standing guard. We know that the Justice Center here in Raleigh was damaged last night, but you're looking at this crowd, very peaceful. They marched down Salisbury Street in the past 5 minutes or so before stopping down right here at the steps of the Raleigh Convention Center. We're not quite sure what their plan is, if they can plan to stop here for a while or continue marching, but this is the third night of protests here in downtown Raleigh. This is, typically how we have seen things starting. Very peaceful, people with signs coming, just chanting and standing up in opposition to police brutality. And of course, this all comes after the death of George Floyd and these protests that we have seen night after night here in downtown Raleigh. This is the third night, and I can't help but notice that as we were headed here following the protesters, we were actually seeing so many of these businesses still, boarding up their windows, still cleaning up, not only from Saturday night, but last night. A lot of broken out windows up and down several streets after we saw a whole lot more vandalism. And you have this gentleman coming behind us. But you see this sign right here. We stand with you. So we're going to follow these protesters, stay with them, and see what they're going to be up to for the next little bit here. Back to you.
Joe, have they mentioned anything to you about the curfew and their feelings on that? Do they plan to abide by the curfew?
Deborah, that's a good question. Like I mentioned, we just got down here in the past 15 minutes, and we could try to come talk to them live on the air to try to get a sense for that as we kind of show you. This is about, let's say, 60 people, maybe 70 people. Sir, were you here previous protests? Is this your first night?
I'd rather not talk to the media. Thank you so much for being
No problem.
here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys a lot. And we're trying to talk with some of these people who actually have come out with signs. Is this your first night, or have you been out before?
We came out Saturday as well.
And then you did not come out last night, but you're back here today.
Yep.
Talk about why you came back for a second night of protesting.
It's an important thing, and it means a lot to us, especially being part of the LGBT community. They did it for us. It was 5 days of riots, and the voices need to be heard.
We know here in the city of Raleigh that tonight there's an 8 o'clock curfew. Have you heard about that curfew?
Yes.
And do you plan to follow it?
Yes.
And have you gotten a sense from the people you're marching with here today that they also plan to follow that?
Absolutely. It's completely peaceful. Completely peaceful.
Can you kind of paint a picture for me? Is this one group that organized on social media? How did this all come together? Because you guys are down here pretty early.
As far as we know, we just showed up. Yeah, we just showed up. We're actually from Fayetteville, so we drove up for it.
You drove more than an hour to be here?
Yep.
Wow. And you as well drove from Fayetteville?
Yep.
And, talk about what you plan to do over the next couple of hours here before that curfew kicks into effect at 8 o'clock.
I'm going to be out here chanting, standing with everybody, making sure that their voices are heard, because that's what's important to me.
Very good. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate you so much talking to us. And you're hearing the honks that are going by on Salisbury Street. Again, we're right in front of the Raleigh Convention Center as this crowd chants and holds their signs. And like you just heard from these two women here, they did hear about that 8 o'clock curfew. They plan to follow it and say that the group plans to follow it as well.
We will keep checking in with you. Joe Fisher live in downtown Raleigh. Thanks, Joe. Well, Raleigh Demands Justice members held a news conference this afternoon condemning the actions of the Raleigh Police Department, including their handling of incidents over the weekend.
The coalition, made up of leaders from several organizations, including Carolina Peace Center, is calling for a stronger oversight board of the Raleigh Police Department, an end to over-policing, and for more resources to be put on health care in underserved communities. The leaders of the coalition say if those demands are not met, they're calling for the immediate removal of Chief of Police Cassandra Deck-Brown.
It is time for her to go. No longer will we sit idly by while the citizens are brutalized. No longer will we remain silent while she remains silent to the injustice.
The coalition is asking for members of the Raleigh community to attend tomorrow's council meeting to demand the changes.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Boyle in the Live Center here today. We did not hear from Governor Roy Cooper during the COVID-19 task force that the state held this afternoon, but we did hear from other officials, including Dr. Mandy Cohen. All of them addressed the protests. All of them talked about many of the protesters being out there wearing masks and face coverings due to the COVID-19 situation that is still gripping the nation and the state here. Dr. Mandy Cohen also talking about how there are new programs now in the works to help underserved and minority communities.
While we cannot undo the harm that communities of color have suffered, we can act. And I cannot walk in the shoes of any person of color, but I can use my place of privilege and power to do better. One small down payment.
We'd like to show you the numbers right now, where things stand across the state. The first graph has been updated with the laboratory confirmed cases, 29,263. That yellow line, the average, is still moving in the up direction. However, the numbers have fallen recently, so that could change here shortly. The number of completed tests still high, but you see that's leveling off. And finally here, this number right here, currently hospitalized, 650. If you watch this yellow line, we talked about it as well. It was trending up, but it appears over the past few days that average is moving in the down direction, something that state officials have been looking at very closely. So that certainly is some good news to report today. Back to you.
Mark, thank you. Republican legislative leaders are criticizing Democratic Governor Roy Cooper's response to the riots. They say Cooper needs to send a stronger message that they will not be tolerated. House Speaker Tim Moore calling on Cooper to mobilize the National Guard's military police force to help enforce the curfew in Raleigh. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie live now in downtown Raleigh with that story. Laura.
Catherine, House Speaker Tim Moore stressed today that he is not talking about the peaceful demonstrators who protested the killing of George Floyd. He said they are not to blame for the destruction that followed them. But after 2 nights of riots in the capital city, he said lawlessness can no longer be tolerated. House Speaker Tim Moore posted a video to Facebook Saturday night from the balcony of his downtown apartment. He said he could smell the tear gas and could hear gunfire and breaking glass.
It's one thing to see it on TV. It's one thing to read about it in the paper or see it online. But it's an entirely different experience to be there literally watching it unfold in front of you. As a citizen, powerless to do anything to stop it.
Moore said he advised Cooper to call in the National Guard earlier Saturday after seeing riots in Charlotte on Friday. But Cooper didn't bring in the Guard till the following night. He also thinks Cooper has not communicated forcefully enough that rioting and looting would not be tolerated.
You know, I don't want these things to be political, but I do take serious issue with the way our governor has handled this.
Moore is calling on the governor to fully mobilize the National Guard in Raleigh and other cities tonight to provide support and resources for overstretched local law enforcement as they attempt to enforce curfews.
When there are soldiers there with a Humvee, with weapons, these rioters and looters, they think twice before messing with something right there.
Now, Governor Cooper's spokeswoman, Dory McMillan, said that the governor did call in the Guard at Charlotte's request on Saturday. It was requested here on Sunday. She sent us this statement in response to what those leaders are saying tonight. Governor Cooper has spoken with mayors across North Carolina and has fulfilled requests for state support, including help from the State Highway Patrol, SBI, ALE, and National Guard. While we must ensure the important call for change isn't lost amid escalating tensions, violence and destruction are unacceptable and must stop. Back to you, Catherine.
Laura Leslie live in downtown Raleigh. Laura, thank you.
Still ahead, new surveillance video of the violence in downtown Raleigh shows a protester smashing the window of a bar. We'll have that story coming up. Plus,
that's the clock pendulum inside the Market House here on Hay Street in Fayetteville. Protesters set the building on fire on Saturday night, but work is already underway to refurbish it.
I think it should be demolished.
Tearing it down, it does not erase history.
What should happen to the building depends on who you ask.
And the first human trial of an antibody therapy to treat COVID-19. It's underway. We'll have details at 5 o'clock. Kat?
And soak in the sunshine today. It is a gorgeous start to the month of June, but this weather is not going to last. I'll break down the changes coming up.
You're watching WRAL News.
Video is surfacing from businesses that have been vandalized during the riots over the past 2 nights in Raleigh, from store security cameras and witnesses with cell phones. Could these be used to make some arrests? WRAL's Amanda Lamb looked into the story. She joins us now live from South Salisbury Street. Amanda?
Deborah, I don't know if you remember, but we were at this spot last night, and as you can see, this window is boarded up. This was smashed. This is where the looters went in. They've now boarded this up as a precaution, and they tell us that they did get surveillance video because, look, these cameras right here, that's how they knew to come down here right away to protect their property. The videos are disturbing. Surveillance videos and cell phone videos of people smashing windows and looting downtown Raleigh stores.
One guy walks by with a bottle and randomly, just opportunistically throws it at the window. Window shatters.
The owner of the Work Bar, Dan Levenheim, saw his business being attacked on his store's security cameras, and he ran downtown to protect it.
The third group of people sees, oh, a freshly broken window, comes in, starts looting. They leave, a fourth group of people comes in, and that's when we arrived.
Could this video be used to arrest people who did the damage? Levenheim says he can't speak for everyone, but for him, arresting these people won't make a difference.
I just need to figure out, we need to figure out how to have it not happen again. So I'll take care of my broken window. I don't need anybody arrested.
And the biggest challenge, he says, is separating the good guys from the bad guys. And he said that's one of the hardest things because you know what? Everybody is wearing a mask, so you can't see their faces even on those surveillance videos. Again, they have boarded this up because they want to make sure this doesn't happen again tonight, but he says they will be watching and protecting their property, whatever comes their way. And we just saw protesters, Deborah, a few minutes ago cross the intersection down there. I don't know if you can still see some of them. I think they've already gone through. But so there are concerns about tonight.
Joe Fisher is following those protesters for us, too. Amanda Lamb for now, live in Raleigh. Thanks, Amanda.
Today's June 1st. The 2020 Atlantic hurricane season is officially underway. We've already had 2 named storms this year, Arthur and Bertha. Both of them affected North Carolina in some way. Now, this hurricane season will bring a new challenge. Storms will likely hit while our country is also dealing with the pandemic. That's why many communities along the coast are factoring social distancing into their storm plans.
States are looking at the ability to contract with hotels and motels as a form of sheltering, at least for the higher risk populations, elderly, pre-existing conditions, or people that were already in isolation because of exposure or because they are, they have COVID-19.
The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1st to November 30th. And this year, forecasters are predicting as many as 19 named storms, with up to 10 becoming hurricanes. June 1st is also the first day of meteorological summer, and Kat, it is going to feel like summer later in the week, but how beautiful today is.
I love this kind of weather. I think I would be more of a summer person if every day was like this. It is a gorgeous start to June. Plenty of sunshine, 75 degrees, low humidity today. Soak it in, get some fresh air while you can, because later on in the week, we are going to be headed toward a major pattern change, and our first really extended summer pattern starting to set up. So this is the setup, and this is how it's going to change. We've got high pressure overhead today, Things are quiet, things are calm. High pressure has sinking air. It dries out the air column. We've got plenty of sunshine today, but this area of high pressure is going to move off the coast tomorrow. And because it has a clockwise flow around it, that means our wind direction is going to change out of the southwest. And that southwest wind is really going to drive up temperatures and humidity in the days to come. An above normal temperature pattern setting up over the next 5 days. Our normal high this time of year is 83. We're at 85 on Tuesday. Wednesday is likely to be our first 90-degree day of the year so far at RDU, and then we'll hover right around that 90-degree mark through at least Saturday. So summer really making an arrival this week, and the humidity also kind of factoring into that summer feel. But this year, it is a little bit unusual. We haven't had a 90-degree day yet. Our average first 90-degree day is in mid-May. By this point, by June 1st, on average, we've seen 3 90-degree days, but our yearly average 43. So we've likely got a ways to go, and we are going to quickly add to that number over the next 7 days. Carr Lake looking beautiful, but I've been talking to a lot of folks by Carr Lake. The water level extremely high in that area. We are also going to be headed toward a drier pattern. So a lot of the area creeks, streams, and rivers that are high right now should gradually start to subside in the coming days. It's not until Thursday that rain chances return. And our rain chances this week are typical summertime storms for the most part. Our best chance for rain will come on Friday, but no day are we currently forecasting a washout this week. Fishing forecast today is going to be a great day to be out doing some fishing, being on the water. Temperatures stay in the low to mid 70s. We are dry and sunny all through the evening. As we look at Chapel Hill, you can see just a few clouds out there, just a few cumulus clouds starting to develop as well on satellite, but it is really going to be a gorgeous evening to spend some time outside. Town by town tonight, because we have clear skies, it'll be on the cooler side, but very comfortable tonight into early tomorrow morning. I loved my dog walk weather this morning. It's going to be in the 50s if you're up early tomorrow morning around sunrise. By tomorrow afternoon, temperatures gradually climb. We're not in the 90s yet, but it is going to be noticeably hotter tomorrow. High temperatures are back in the mid-80s tomorrow. As we look ahead over the next 7 days, a couple days of some quieter weather before storm chances return for the end of the week. We will have a system move through that cools us off a little bit. Still hot and humid as we head into early next week, but temperatures fall back in the 80s by Sunday. Back to you.
Well, if only we could clone this weather today and just store it somewhere when we use it when we need it. Thank you, Kat.
Beautiful day for sure. Coming up, universities in North Carolina announce new information about when classes resume and when athletes can come back for training. That story coming up.
You're watching WRAL News.
Winston-Salem State University is the latest school to announce that in-person classes will resume in the fall. Classes will start August 17th, a week earlier than originally scheduled. The last day of in-person classes will be November 20th. Final exams for most courses will be given online. The university is also foregoing the traditional fall break.
UNC's research enterprise started on-campus operations today. They'll be working at a reduced capacity with a gradual increase to full campus operations in July. The university is also preparing for the return of athletics. Today, facilities were cleaned to prepare for the return of some coaches and athletes on the 12th.
North Carolina will continue to hold off on evictions related to the coronavirus pandemic. The state Supreme Court issued 3 new executive orders. The first puts all pending evictions on hold through June 21st. The others create a new mediation program to help those at risk of being evicted and to give them more time to file an appeal. The orders work within the governor's extended state of emergency to help those who are struggling to make ends meet right now.
Business owners are cleaning up after protests in Fayetteville turned violent over the weekend when a historic building was set on fire. Why some residents are blaming outsiders, coming up at 4:30. Plus,
stop the mosquitoes and ticks. I'm 5 News Side's Monica Liberty. Just ahead, I'll show you the top-rated insect repellents, a must-have this time of year.